Welcome to Heart Riffing, a podcast by way of the heart. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your essence and live from a place of personal freedom. If you're interested in learning more about our courses, mentoring and workshops, feel free to visit wayoftheheart.com.au. We're so glad you're here and we hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, and welcome back to Heart Riffing, a podcast by way of the heart. Today, Bello, you're going to introduce the topic.
I am. Hey, Jess.
Hey.
Back again. What number is this? What pod is this?
29. I believe it's 29.
29. Here we go.
Look at us go.
So today we're going to talk about something that I hope starts off a bit theoretical, but then gets really practical really quickly. We're going to talk about the journey of descent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really kind of pivotal idea. I think it might have been Carl Jung, but he had this idea of the journey of ascent, climbing the mountain, which was often very ego driven, putting stuff out there, and you get to whatever the summit is, whatever your attainment metric is, and inevitably, like, you get to the top of Everest and then you realize we can't stay here. This is not a place where you can live.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm suffocating now.
And that the healthy person actually comes down.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of coming down, the further down they go, obviously it's like, yeah, well, I did that, but I'm not that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I climbed that, I achieved that, I was that momentarily, and then down I went. And so it's this idea that any kind of attainment that we get actually at some point is like, okay, but so you get the job, you get the career, you get whatever it is, you reach the pinnacle of your education or whatever it is, and then there's this necessary journey down from that back to a stable normative base, right? And what that's really informative for guys my age, because a lot of my peers will have spent a whole life pushing hard to get to levels of wealth, levels of attainment, positions of influence. And then, as you kick into, I'm 61, it's like, okay, so, you're going to leave that career.
Mm.
And then it's like, and then you're not the boss anymore. I remember one guy was actually a very, very influential diplomat. And he left the diplomatic corps and he came home. It's like, what are you going to do? Because I'm going to consult. I've got so many connections. I'm just going to run a consultancy. It's like, okay, cool. That's great. And like literally, 8-9 months after he'd left the diplomatic corps and set up his consultancy, he just didn't get any phone calls.
Right.
Because he wasn't that guy anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Like he had the position, he had the influence within government, he had all the connections by virtue of attaining that position. But when he stepped out into an independent thing, it was like, well, that doesn't have the leverage that does. So it's like, oh, so I'm not that guy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, you're not. There's another guy sitting in that seat.
Yeah.
And he learned really quickly the idea that the seat has power.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just a guy. And once you get out of the seat, then you're still just a guy.
Yeah. Once you're off Everest, you're not the guy on Everest.
Once you're just off
anymore.
Everest, you've got to line up for your train ticket just like everyone else.
Yeah,
It's like you got to carry your own bag.
Yeah.
Like you had a Sherpa on the way up.
Yeah.
Like you got to carry your crap to the train station to get home.
Yeah.
So, and the journey of descent starts to become really pivotal for guys my age, because if you don't make it and you think that all of life is just ascent, well, what happens is you end up destroying everything, because you always need to be the expert, the winner, the boss, so there's this necessary kind of death to the ego that gets you there has to die.
Mm-hmm.
The drive that gets you there has to get turned off, and there needs to be a moment where you realize, oh, that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a thing. That wasn't it was just a thing. It was an incredible thing, but it wasn't everything. It was just a thing. It was a singular thing. Now, where I think this starts to get really interesting, not to bang on, I'm just setting this up so we can have a conversation, watch where this goes. A lot of people between the ages of, say, 20 and 40 are starting the game not with the journey of ascent. The journey of ascent has become a game that they can't play. And I'll talk about that in a minute. They're actually starting their journey of as a journey of descent from the get-go. Mm-hmm. The young person that, has to wrestle to sort of, get the HSC mark, to get the course, to get into the university, to get into the course, to finish the course with a certain amount of grades, so they can then, get a job, get a career. In the meantime, they've just acquired a 45,000 plus HECS debt, student loan debt. They get the job, they start off low, any extra income they're putting away to maybe buy a unit or to purchase that car, or to, they meet someone, the couple are then combining their income to sort of get enough for a deposit on a house, which is getting further and further away, and then the interest rate goes up, and then the cost of living goes up, and then someone starts blowing up Iran and Hormuz doesn't work anymore, and so petrol goes from, $1.45, which we all thought was horrifying. Now it's like $2.22, and on and on and on and on and on and on it goes, right? And so they get to this point where, you could say it's the cost of living crisis, it's the unaffordability of housing, it's the extreme competitiveness of the workplace, it's all these things. It's the student debt, it's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's then they have then maybe they're a couple, they get together, they have a baby, then it's the cost of childcare.
Yeah, they're like, and now they're climbing Everest with no Sherpa and no oxygen and no snow gear.
And not even that, they're not even climbing Everest anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're in the valley of how the heck did we get here?
We're in the rainforest. Shouldn't we be on a mountain?
Yeah. We're not. Someone said there's a mountain over there. We don't even get to see it.
Wading through the mud.
It's like, get that snake and that leech off me, Holy crap. And, Dad's going, I've got great mountain climbing boots for you. It's like mountain climbing boots. Have you got any mosquito repellent? So they're not even starting.
Yeah.
Or seemingly not even starting.
Yes.
And so I think Way of the Heart has some answers to that. Mm-hmm. And they'd be the ones that you were going to share with us.
Yeah, totally. Today because as somebody who has done the ascent and the descent, I've got all the answers.
Yeah.
But for real, if
for real.
You
see, for real, dude.
For real, bro.
Yeah.
If how do you start talking about the descent to, some of our listeners who know that there is an ascent, but they're still in the jungle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, which is everyone who basically is,
not a boomer.
20. Okay, not a boomer. We're not going to line boomers up against a wall and paintball them.
Sorry.
If you've been paintballed lately, it's
you're a boomer. I love you.
Yeah, we're not doing that because they're part of their generation anyway.
Totally.
So part of this is a conversation about here's a big, lock this one in, the prevailing consciousness of your generation. Mm-hmm. So if consciousness is a worldview, then everyone is raised in their culture, everyone is raised in their generation, and there is a prevailing worldview. And for most people, that is just downloaded uncritically.
Yeah.
Like a couple of examples, modern examples, right? When I was a young guy, and I am eternally grateful for this. there was not a single guy that was ripped. Like, number one, no one wore.
This is not where I thought it was going to go.
No, when we went to the beach, I did not have a single friend from my youth, my early 20s, my early surfing days. I did not have a single friend who would wear a pair of Speedos down the beach.
Lucky you.
I just rejoice at that. I just go, we were all highly appropriate. It was like boardies, or like everyone was looking at you going, like, what are you doing? But no one was ripped, because there just wasn't this thing. Like, no one went to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
People might have played squash, you know, which I don't think many people do anymore. You know, dads went and played bowls.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't very cool. No one got ripped or cut. No one was smashing protein. I mean, maybe Arnie Schwarzenegger, you know, but like whey protein, I didn't know that was until I was 44.
Yeah.
You know, acetyl L-carnitine. What is that? It sounds like something that you stick in your car to make it go faster.
It does, doesn't
you know, like it's like so the body image issue back then was like we would rub coconut oil on us
and burn in the sun
and get really burnt and try and go as brown as we possibly could.
Wow.
And our hair was like peroxided and like light hair, brown skin, get out in the sun. That was the look, right? Now, how did we deviate into such?
How do we go from Everest?
How did we deviate into such triviality?
Yeah.
It's just that, like, the idea today that you would douse yourself in coconut oil and go and stand out in the sun without paying any attention to your physique and the way you looked.
Yeah.
It's like I've even had people say to me, if you're going to do a podcast and kind of talk about wisdom literature, you just can't be overweight. Like, no one respects a fat guy. I just go, that's going to be a problem for me. All right? Yeah,
Are you serious?
100%. Yeah, that was actually said to me.
I'm actually shocked.
No. It was like, no one respects a fat guy. I'll tell you later.
What about the Buddha?
Yeah, I know.
What the heck?
Prevailing consciousness back at Happy Buddha was like, he's happy. Look at him. That's fantastic.
So shocked.
I know. That was actually said to me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay, I'll tell you who. I'll tell you who, and you can send them a happy letter.
I will.
So every generation has my point in. I know it's trivial, but like body image just wasn't. Body image like it is today was not a thing.
Yeah. Happily
Lycra, like active wear was not a thing.
Yeah.
You could actually go out without wearing active wear. It was amazing. You know, like what a time in history that was.
Only dream.
There was a period in time, obviously, in history where women couldn't show their ankles.
Yeah.
In English society.
Yeah.
So there's prevailing consciousnesses. Every culture has a prevailing consciousness. Every culture has a worldview about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and what the rules of the win are, and what the rules of success are, and what the markers of attainment, what the journey of ascent looks like. Mm-hmm. You know, for some people, it's like, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? You know, for some people, it's jumping off, you know, Mont Blanc in a wingsuit and flying unassisted down to Lake Annecy or something.
I'm like, party. If that's you, like, get it.
If that's you, good luck.
Yeah.
Because you could end up like a mosquito on the front of the windscreen. Like, boom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So every generation has a prevailing consciousness, a prevailing worldview about what the journey of ascent looks like. I say that because if you're playing a game that's already rigged, if you can't even see the mountain and someone wants you to be a mountaineer, the chances are you're being asked to play a game that has that you should at least have the right in your own consciousness, in your own sense of who you are. You should at least have the right to say, whatever that game is, it has nothing to do with me. Like, others can play that game, but that's not really how I want to play, right? And so that's what I would call this process of delegitimizing the success markers or the achievement markers or the things that come down to us as like, you've got to do this. Sure, you actually don't.
Yeah.
You actually don't.
Yeah. How do you even start identifying what they are? Because I think that, you said that every culture and every like generation has their own set. How do you even start to identify what the prevailing set is and how it impacts you?
It's really a good question. It's the right question, because if we framed it another way, what you're saying is, what would be the signpost to an alternate consciousness?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not without putting words in your mouth.
No. Lead the witness. Allah.
Yeah. You lead the witness. So is what you're trying to say, what are the markers of an alternate consciousness? I think that's probably what you're trying to say. I think number one, the first marker is that you give yourself the right to go, that's not legitimate for me.
And in that way, it could be anything.
Well, delegitimization takes away authority. You're driving along the road, you see someone, you might be doing a bit over the speed limit. Someone with a blue light pulls you over and they get out, and it's Norman, an 81-year-old that just thinks you were driving erratically. And he goes, hello, any reason why you were speeding? He's not wearing a uniform. He's wearing a cardigan, and he goes like, yes, I'm Norman. I'm not a police officer, but I really want to talk to you about you. Just like, you don't have any authority, dude.
Yeah,
Norman.
Yeah.
You got no badge. You're just crazy Norman.
Yeah.
Get back in your car, man.
Yeah.
Get lost.
Yeah.
So when you delegitimize something, you acknowledge that for you, it has no power.
Okay.
Now let me throw it back to you.
Go.
Can you think of anything in the gap between, this is one generational gap, right? What has your generation delegitimized that my generation struggled to?
Where do we begin? I think probably gender and queerness, the whole idea of like the binary and having to be straight and there's only two genders. I think that my generation have done massive steps towards delegitimizing.
Yep,
that.
I'd agree. Is that it?
Two more.
Yeah, well, you're a queer woman. Yes, tick.
Yeah.
That one was, I didn't see that coming.
I think, well, this is difficult too because it's emerging, but I think that there's probably also shifts towards delegitimizing the idea that you have to work from 9 to 5.
Right.
And that your vocation has to be everything about you.
Great.
I think some people in my generation delegitimizing the idea that happiness and success looks like a nuclear family and that you have to, get married and have kids and a picket fence and a house that you own and
tick.
All of those sorts of things are being delegitimized as well.
Yeah. I think from my parents' generation to my generation, multiculturalism was a major thing.
Yeah, wow.
Like my I hate to say it, but like I had relatives that would talk about generational terms that were common when I was a kid. They're not, and now we hear those and we go, that we're going to have to put a warning on this.
Oh, 100%.
So my generation looked at that and just went, actually, I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And we started to, we certainly didn't move the dial in terms of I think we did. We started the Mardi Gras back when I was in my 20s, not that everyone got on board, obviously, but it started back then. But multiculturalism, I mean, I worked in a multicultural centre in one of Sydney's more diverse communities about helping migrants from other countries get jobs in Australia. So, I think we shifted the dial on that.
I think it's also probably good to point out that these changes have been made within our specific context in Australia too.
Yeah.
And that these changes also happen elsewhere completely differently in the world as well.
100%.
But this is kind of back to your point about it all being very, very individual, like the idea of ascent and descent and delegitimization is different depending on the person, right?
Well, I'm trying to point out that every generation actually within the context of that generation has an inbuilt alternate consciousness than the generation before.
Oh, I see.
The thing's already fluid. What we think, the journey of ascent, which everyone wants to lock in as if it is not fluid, it's fixed. You've got to have this, you've got to do this, you've got to do it this way. You actually don't. You actually don't have to do it this way. And if you look at it already, the whole foundation is already fluid. What is someone's Everest over here is like, I don't, that's not even a game I want to play. I don't want to be a mountain climber.
Yeah.
That's you do that. That generation wanted to do that.
Yeah. This is so kind of like the generation below me. I'm a millennial. I'm like a younger millennial. But
I thought so.
Just in case you didn't know what generation your daughter was in.
I'm actually Gen X, not a boomer, so no hate for me. I know I look like a boomer, but I'm actually Gen X. I'm actually very angsty and angry.
And I'm very defeated and complacent, apparently.
Yeah, great.
But
we hate labels.
But the generation below me, I think, gained a bit of traction or notoriety for when they go into a job and they don't like the job and they're being treated badly, they're like, okay, cool, I quit.
Yeah.
Whereas for a millennial, that would be like, what? You quit? No. So like, I think I get what you're saying.
Which is different from a Gen Xer because we just go into the job and go, I hate you, but I'm still working here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So so my whole point is delegitimization says delegitimization takes power away from it. It allows an alternate awareness, an alternate consciousness. And it also allows you to see that this whole thing's moving. This whole thing was never fixed in the first place. You know, and if it's not fixed, it has no rigidity. It actually doesn't. It only really has a very provisional framework. It's going to shift. It's going to change, and that's a very big point for me. Right. Which I know it sounds academic. It's not legitimate. Take power away from it. The way you take power away from it is you observe it and you just go, oh wow, this is a momentary thing. It's like taking the blooming of a flower seriously. It's like, yes, it's there, and then by autumn, it's not there anymore. Which sounds trivial, does it?
No, I don't think it sounds trivial at all. I think it sounds, and it is, I think it's macro. And so my next question is, how do you, and I really love this as a macro way of framing things. I think that it's important and empowering. But how do you take that from the macro into the micro?
I think every individual has to do it for themselves. And maybe this is where we go to the micro. If we're going to go to the micro, this has to be an exercise that you do. It's not an exercise that anyone can do for you. For me, I had to lean into moments in my life where I just genuinely felt dislocated. Like for me, this has always felt like a dislocation. And even if it didn't feel like a massive dislocation, like, you know, if your shoulder was dislocated, you'd surely know about it, right? Or maybe it felt like a strain, or maybe it felt like a muscle strain, or, it's like, this is too tight. You know, this thing's not fitting. You know, like for me, it always felt like that. Because there was lots of things for me to deconstruct. There was lots, and we're not just talking about hard deconstruct now, like the couple of episodes ago where we had to put explicit labels because of the discovery of one naughty word. It's like, this is more looking at the prevailing consciousness, the prevailing worldview, and just going, I just don't know that I see the world like that. I just don't think that's for me.
Yeah.
And it's not fixed. That doesn't have to be the truth. That doesn't have to be the defining reality. Like, everyone doesn't need to believe that story. I had to lean into the fact that I go, I actually don't believe that story, you know. And I mean, Richard Alpert, who was the Harvard psych professor who became Ram Dass. This happened to him in the early days in Harvard when he and Timothy Leary were, studying psychology, and they had legitimate questions about, the countercultural movement at that period of time and the effect of hallucinogens, right? So they got a Harvard grant to buy an enormous amount of LSD, as you do, But,
I mean, you know what? If you're going to do something with some Harvard money,
but this is probably, I mean, this would be, research into the impact of LSD psychologically on someone, right? So there was obviously some seriousness and some legitimacy to it. Where it went in the end, that's another program. But Ram Dass would say psilocybin in particular opened a doorway in his consciousness to a reality that he just hadn't experienced before. In no way are we, and in no way is Way of the Heart endorsing psychedelics, that's not our game. What we are saying is he's a very conservative Jewish Harvard professor who is looking at life and going, there's something going on here, I don't know what it is, enters into it, has an experience, and then goes, oh, wow, that's just one read.
Yeah, right.
And that one read of the way life should be is a total construct. And there's another complete alternate read to it. And so he goes from being Richard Alpert Harvard professor to Ram Dass, Hindu guru, Hindu sort of, devotee, to Neem Karoli Baba and or guru wearing beads and all this sort of stuff. Now that's not everyone's trip, right? But it's interesting.
Yeah, totally.
In the sense that I'm on this line and then chink, oh, I'm on a completely different pathway, right?
Yeah. It's interesting too that, like you mentioned for you personally, that feeling like dislocation.
Or tightening, a dislocation, or it just wasn't working, or more particularly, for me, it normally felt like no matter how well behaved I am, I just don't think no matter how much I try, I can't get a win in this context.
Yeah, right. I think this kind of leads me to when you do hit that point of you're realizing that there's a different read on things.
Yeah.
I think initially that can be really isolating, no? But
Yes,
also like that's also the point from which massive inclusivity and peace rests.
For sure. Because in that moment, I think, isn't it? There's two things that happen. Is in that moment you stop internalizing it and making it about yourself.
Yeah.
This isn't about me. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not broken. I'm not the outlier. I'm not sure what everyone else gets, but the fact that I don't get this doesn't make me any more illegitimate than anyone else. Like this isn't my thing, right? Some people have a greater ability to go, oh, this isn't for me, I'm out. You know what I mean? They hold their posture really robustly. Others of us take a while to learn how to do that, right? And some people don't hold their posture and they just submit to they just become, compliant, right? Which has its own impact. When you do start to question it and you do start to go, this isn't about me, this is about that. That's not legitimate. What then comes out of the woodwork is your awareness of so many other people that go, we didn't think that was right either.
Yeah.
That's not for us either. So you almost come out of it and you find a whole body of people who just went, yeah, we're with you.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, this is the diaspora. These are the people that don't fit. They're like, and they sort of become more your kin than the advocates of. Yeah, that's definitely true for me.
I mean, I think that's true for me too, and I think in my own life it hasn't felt like the delegitimization of something hasn't necessarily felt like a dislocation, but it's more felt like, I don't know, deep despair and frustration
Yeah.
and loneliness, really.
Yeah.
But then, like, once I've stopped battling against that and lent into it,
Yeah.
then that's opened up into like a beautiful fullness.
I think so. So how much was the despair and the loneliness and stuff and the pain of that still because this thing had legitimacy and this thing was invalidating you?
Yeah, probably a lot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's horrible, right?
Okay.
So that still tells you that you're still giving this thing legitimacy because the critique that comes from that still wounds, right?
And yeah, so I guess what you're saying is like the full delegitimization of something is when it doesn't sting anymore because it's just.
You're not a very good mountaineer.
Yeah, right.
I know.
I'm not in the mountain.
Yeah, I know. That's because like I do cave diving. You know, it's like I don't go up, I go down all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, I don't do that. I ride horses. I don't like going up steep hills like that. Whatever, you know, like at some point when you click off that entirely, that whole thing starts to become not just disinteresting, it just starts to become not your thing. You know, now you say, well, how do you do that with a hex debt? Or how do you do that with a living crisis? Or how do you do with that? I think you do it in micro ways, in ways that just go, well, what's going to work for you? You're allowed to say what's going to work for you. You know, you're allowed to go, oh, well, no, I'm going to, like, I love it. I've got a French mate and, you know, I was walking with him the other day and he just goes, no, I'll never make any money in this country by buying property. He's a financier. He goes, I'll never do that. You know, like, those days are over. I'll find better ways to invest my money. I'm not going to do that. You know, and I go as someone who was lucky enough to ride a bit of the property boom. Well, you know, there's real advantages to doing this. And he goes, yeah, Bellows, but those days are gone. You know, like that's not for me. You know, and it's really interesting because he has that very European mentality, which just says, I don't need to own it to live in it. And in fact, better that I don't loan it because when something goes wrong with it or I don't like it anymore, I'll go and get another one, you know? And so he's far more European in his thinking around that sort of stuff, which is really interesting. Because you talk to a lot of young Australians and like the big quest is like, well, how are we going to get in the housing market? Talk to young Europeans and often that's not a concern at all, you know? So I think you do get to negotiate it individually.
I think this sort of leads me to what degree is your heart aware of this? Like, to what degree does your heart play a part in the delegitimization process?
Delegitimization is like someone goes up to the policeman and takes away their badge, takes away their gun, and gives them a T-shirt.
And now they're just Norman.
And now you just go, wow.
Yeah.
You're like us. It's like, yeah. Like the markers of authority are not to say the person behind all those, you know, it's not to say that someone else's journey of ascent is invalid for them. It's not valid for you. And so you take away that stuff. For me, I think at my age, the journey of descent is actually a gift. I don't have to keep doing this. I don't have to keep being that guy. I don't have to turn up for that. I don't have to believe that that's true. I don't have to hold that line. I don't have to believe that ridiculous mission or vision statement, you know, whatever it is. You know, it's like I'm coming down from all of that sort of stuff. And then you go, oh, it's actually a gift. And maybe there's a generation, your generation, that actually starts with that as the gift rather than the promise. That if you just do this, you can get to base camp. And then if you do this, you can get to, you know, stage 1, stage 2. You can eventually summit and be like us. It's like, no, actually, let's just take you to the gift where you don't have to do any of that. Like all of that's a nonsense. And you just get to figure out what your life looks like in the most unpretentious, not non-aspirational, but just not having to just believe that script. So that doesn't have to be an inheritance that you get from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's, oh, here's the journey of ascent. Would you like that? And you're going, you can keep that.
Yeah, right.
That's yours.
Mm-hmm.
That's your thing. And you don't have to do that. I mean, I think that is part of the way that I would think about it. So, maybe you don't go to university, if you're that young, maybe you don't go to university, or maybe, I don't know. I don't know what it is for anyone, I don't know what it looks like. I mean, I know for me, it looked like a constant letting go, but I was kind of addicted to I was addicted to the institutions that I thought could get me there.
Right.
Like I was like thinking like, I remember getting a job once and my dad rang me up and I said, "Hey Dad, this is the job I've got. This is what I'm doing." And Pop, God bless him, because he's a big believer in the journey of ascent. That is a fantastic job. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have wanted anything more for you than that you get that role. I was in the role like 2 weeks and hated every second of it. Like 2 months in, I went into the boss and just said, "This isn't for me. I don't want to be here." Then had to make the phone call to Pop. "Pop, I shot the job." "Why would you do that?" I shot it. I couldn't do it, Pop.
Yeah.
And in his mind, it was like, why would, like, you were with a good team. You would have summited. Why didn't you want to do that?
It's like, because I actually wasn't on Everest.
Yeah, Papa was just, it wasn't what it was cracked up to be.
So then, like, I guess to circle back to the question just a little bit earlier, just so that I can, like, consolidate for my own mind, the part that our heart plays in all of this is...
Sorry, I probably didn't answer that question, did I?
No, I think you but I think you touched on it in a roundabout way.
I think our heart knows. I think our heart really knows whether like this is for us or not. And I think our heart is, I think our heart is kind of like a barometer where it was like, those terms that we often use is like, oh, completely wholehearted.
Yeah.
We know when your heart knows when you can be given to something. And when you can be given to it, you can be wholehearted about it. And then there's times where you just go, oh, people will say it doesn't feel like your heart's in this. Like, yeah, it's not. It's like I'm turning up. I'm doing everything I'm meant to be doing. I'm trying to apply my brain. But just my heart's just not in it. That's when you have to say to whatever it is, "It's not you, it's me." That old cheesy breakup line. It's not you.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Yeah. I wonder how many mountaineers have gotten to the base camp at Everest and been like, "You know what? I don't want to summit. It's not you.
It's very cold. It's not really you."
I've actually decided it's not me.
I'm more a comfy man.
I'm going to go home now.
Yeah. So I don't think we've dug really deep into this, but I think that, because I think there's probably more questions that could come up in this.
Definitely.
But it's a fascinating conversation, the journey of descent, and what happens for a generation where the starting place of the journey is not the journey of ascent, but the journey of descent.
Well, maybe
and could that be a gift?
Right. Maybe this is like a part tour. Like maybe we need to pick up this.
Yeah, sleep on this one and come back and...
Maybe. I also want to do like a call out. Like I'm interested to hear, we've got a couple of people who are dedicated listeners. I'm interested to hear what you think, if this episode brought up anything, what your thoughts, comments are. We love hearing from you. So let us know what your thoughts are, and maybe we can bring that to a part 2 later on down the track.
Yeah. Maybe another thing to do on the back of a part 2 is, in between now and say the next time we do this, just scan the environment that you live in, scan your world, and see if you can see anyone who is just completely playing to a different tune. It's like, I don't know what they're doing, but they just don't, they're not doing this stuff. the person that I had in my young formative life who was like that was my brother-in-law, Gary. Like Gazza was just, he was just, you remember and love Gazza, and shout out to Colin, Jazzy and everyone, and my sister Gail. But Gazza was, he's passed now, but he just was like, he just did his thing, you know. He was still there for his family. He was still an incredible, pivotal, central member of the broader family. He was an incredible guy, but for whatever reason, like he went to work and did his thing. But like, like when it started to rain, he'd hit a bush track and he'd go down there and he'd look at the Aboriginal paintings on the wall where he just knew where they were, or he'd go and sit at a lookout, or he'd take the dogs for a walk up in the Colo Creek, or like he just was like going, yeah, I get it. You're all doing that. Not for me.
Mm-mm.
Not causing a revolution, but he was such a good example for me of someone that just had said, I'm all good, thanks. I'll be over here. And it was, I think he was formative in me just going, ooh, he's not thinking like I'm thinking. Yeah. So maybe you've got a Gary in your life or some other cat that's just, you look at them and you go, they don't fit. And that could be the point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for listening to Heart Riffing. If today's conversation resonated, you can find more of our work, including courses, mentoring, and workshops, at www.wayoftheheart.com.au or on our Instagram, Way of the Heart Official. We'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections, or questions, so please always feel free to message or comment. We look forward to seeing you next time.